In a world where you can be anything, be pink.
Are you ready to transform your golf game and life to amazing? Learn with us on the BPink podcast hosted by Presley Pickron and Sarah Cordova. Hi guys, welcome back to the BPink podcast. I'm your host, Presley Pickron, with my co-host, Sarah Cordova.
Hi.
Before we get in anything today, we want to go ahead and ask you guys to subscribe to our YouTube channel and to follow all of our social media down below so you guys don't miss out on anything and you can join our hive. Now, in our past podcast, we talked about the P in our logo, positive thinking, and how important it is in our everyday life and in our golf game. And to move on from our pre-shot routine, the I in our logo stands for instruction and information. Now, to start off, I just want to stress how important instruction is. To start, I want to know your journey with instruction. I want to know everything.
Okay, it's actually not that complicated. So I started golf my junior year of high school. I had a really sweet coach, but golf wasn't a really big thing in our town. There wasn't much like competitiveness. It was just, we'd go to practice, have a couple drills, do that. So a lot of what I learned from my early stages of learning how to play competitive golf was off of YouTube and golf books. And that only got me so far. So I plateaued. But when I got to college, I saw a swing coach for the first time, and I didn't go all the time. I went maybe like every other week or maybe once a month. And I could only afford to see him for maybe 5 months, and then I had to stop after a certain point. But with that said, it really, within the short amount of time, it kind of showed me a little bit of things that I needed to like look out for in my game that affected me that I didn't know. And so I didn't have an instructor for very long, but I realized how important it was because although the little time that I did work, it did improve me a little bit. Then COVID came and I didn't really have a lot of instruction because golf courses were closed, everything was shut down. But when I got to Mesa, I didn't really know what it was like to have a good instructor or a good instruction staff, meaning assistant coaches and head coach. But from the time that I started working with our head coach and our assistant coaches, my golf game has changed drastically.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how important it was, but everything that the coaches have taught me and have showed me to change, even without just having like a fancy swing instructor, just like a good coaching and instruction staff has changed my game from here and has brought it up to here.
Yeah. So I kind of have the same experience. I've seen a couple instructors throughout my golf career. They've all been great. They've helped me get through different levels of the golf game, but my most recent and the one that I'm still seeing now has completely changed my game. And it's exciting because she gives me these little golf nuggets that I get to think about. One of them being that I've said before is there just takes one good shot to make a par. I think about that during every single round now. And she really taught me how to start getting to know course management. Mm-hmm. Now, I have always been the type of player to just swing and have a good time and not really understand truly how to play the game of golf. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can have a perfect game and you can have a perfect swing, but I mean, I feel like the game of golf is really like knowing all the components, right? Like all the yardage, the weather, the greens, and all of that also has to do with information, which is the other I. And I think these two go hand in hand, and you can't have one without the other. So instruction gets you your swing, right? But then the information gets you the course management, gets you the actual game of golf. And the first thing that I learned with information is yardage and how important it is. And when I was a middle school golfer, and even kind of in high school, I just took one number, I took the pin number with my yardage finder, and I had one club I would swing. I never took any bunkers, any if it was front or back pin, I just didn't even think about it. My course management was awful. How did you start really knowing how to take all those different yardages? When did you pivot for you?
Okay, not gonna lie, I didn't learn till maybe 6 months ago, which is okay. Everyone starts somewhere. Our coaches actually had a meeting with us, and we talked about this golf program called Decade that they actually subscribe to, and they do pay money for the instruction. But lucky enough, they were able to share the information that they've learned and help us apply it to our golf game, so we don't have to go out there and pay money for it, which is great that they were doing that for us. But one of the major things that stuck out with me that they taught us, which I wouldn't have learned without instruction, was getting more than just one distance. So you would get your yardage to the pin, but you would also have to take into consideration, is there a bunker? How much do you need to carry the bunker? Doesn't matter about the pin, but how much do you need to carry the bunker to get on the green? Because if the pin is 105 and the bunker is 100, you're going to need a club that's going to at least carry 100. And then when I started to learn that, I was like, okay, there's more than just one spot to look at, not just grabbing the club and going like you saying you were doing, which I was doing up until about 6 months ago, which has drastically changed my golf game. Or taking into account, okay, there's a bunker on the left side and the pin's tucked behind it, but I have a lot more green, and it's going to be a lot easier for me to carry a shorter distance onto the green if I go a little bit right.
Yeah.
So I think learning to pick two different points of yardage, carry and pin, has helped me save some scores and shave strokes off of my game, solely just because I'm learning to pick the right club, and how I'm hitting my certain clubs at the time. If I'm hitting it solid or not depends, as well as if I'm not hitting my pitching wedge, which I normally hit 100 yards, that solid. Just to kind of feel a little bit more confident with my decision, I'm going to club up and take my 9-iron. So I know for sure, even if I do a little bit past the pin, for now, I know I'm going to be on the green versus in the bunker, because I decided to be prideful and take my pitching wedge thinking I could carry it there.
Yeah. No, I think that Decade is brilliant because it meshes information and instruction, and you can get so much out of it. When we had our meeting, I got out of it was handling weather. Mm-hmm. Now, in Arizona, there's not that much, just 100-degree heat, and that's about it. And we just had a tournament a couple weeks ago, and the first day, it was regular Arizona weather, sunny, sun was shining, it was hot, it was pretty, it was nice, it was a perfect day for golf.
It's Arizona.
It was a perfect day. And then the second day, it was cold, it was dark, it was very, very windy. And I was kind of taken by surprise because I've played in wind before, but I have never really, played in wind. I've never really handled the wind. I've never really, known how to be in the shot and know all the information I should take. Mm-hmm. So we had that little Decade lesson, and going into this round, I was feeling pretty confident. I was like, I just learned all this. I'm going to take some extra steps. I'm going to, before every shot, know where the wind's going, if I need to club up, if I need to club down, hit it low. I need to figure out all my information. And I actually ended up shooting lower the second day than the first day because I was more into it. I was taking the extra steps to figure out how the shot is going to happen, and I was more confident. I almost kind of saw it happening before because I had all these numbers, and I was like, this is everything I need to take to encounter before I make the shot happen.
Exactly. And we wouldn't have learned any of this without being around good instructors and trusting that they know what they're talking about. So like you said, it goes hand in hand, instruction with information. You can't have good instruction without information. You can't have information without good instruction.
Yeah. And like you're saying, trusting them, I also think with how important instruction is, I think it's important to take what you're given, right? I went through a lot of lessons when I was younger and didn't even absorb any of the information. I just went there to have a good time. I messed around with my friends. It just wasn't. And now I have a whole new perspective. I think my lessons are so valuable. I only get an hour of her time. I want everything she's going to tell me. I take all of her drills home. Right now I'm working on a split grip like a hockey, so that way I can get a little bit more above the plane because I'm really low right now. And I take all of that and I practice it. And I only see her maybe once a month. And because I have all that time to practice and really absorb and to make the most of the time, because you can spend all the money on lessons and instruction, but it doesn't matter if you're not going to actually use it and take it and implement it in your golf
Exactly.
game.
It's quality versus quantity. You're not going to go and see her multiple times, because just doing it over and over for multiple times a week or multiple times a month isn't going to change it overnight. It's making sure you're getting that one quality lesson and taking time to really take everything she's taught you and use it.
Yeah. So to keep going with information, I also am learning. This year has been a ton of learning, just information after another. And I'm learning about grain on the green, reading grain. and shiny and not shiny and all these fun little tricks that I can learn to better my short game. And it's just so important. And I wish I learned it earlier. But like you said, everyone goes on their own track, right? And that's what's so special about the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I find myself thinking about these little tiny things, all this little information that I would have never thought about a year ago, or even before the season, 6 months ago.
We would have just picked the club, hit the ball, and been like, okay, let's get it in the hole.
Yeah.
But now we're thinking, okay, grain, which oh my gosh, I still don't understand grain completely, but
it's a work in progress.
Exactly.
We're constantly learning, right? And with our great instructor, he's constantly teaching us, and we're constantly absorbing, and it's just a perfect cycle, and I love it.
Also, wait, hold on, quick tip. If you're learning about grain and you're in a tournament, just know you're not supposed to touch the grass to fill the grain, because you can get penalized for that.
Some of us learned the hard way. No.
Just saying for a friend.
But like you were saying about just getting the club and hitting, I think another thing that I didn't understand, so when you're on the range before a tournament, right, you're just warming up, and I play a baby draw, and sometimes you're going to get up in a tournament and you're going to be playing a fade, and you're going to have to adjust, because you don't want to have the mindset of let's fix it and then one bad shot leads to another bad shot, instead of just letting the game flow, right? Just muscle memory. If that's how it's going to play, then you got to plan for it. You have to take all the information, plan your miss. So if you're playing a fade now, you got to aim a little bit more left into the green, left into the fairway. Mm-hmm. Just being like acknowledgeable about your game of that day, because it's always going to change. I mean, it might not be like, you might just wake up and just your swing path's fine, but you're a little slow to close the face. But you know what?
Exactly. I think not the last tournament, but actually it was the most recent tournament. I either hit it really straight or I hit a cut, and I wasn't hitting it very straight, and I was like freaking out. And my coach was like, just play with your miss today. Like, we'll fix it. We'll work on it eventually, but just aim a little bit more left and play with your miss. And so learning to play with my miss for that day, taking what I knew about how my swing was working that day, it helped me save a lot more strokes and end up in the fairway versus not acknowledging that I have a miss going on right now and how my shot's playing and ending up in the desert.
No, yeah, and the trouble, right? You know your shot of the day, and then you're totally trying to avoid trouble. And sometimes I hate anything right. I hate a fade, I hate cuts, I don't know. It's a pet peeve of mine, even though that's like such an awesome shot I should actually like perfect. But say I was playing a fade and I had a bunker on the right. In my head, in my immature golf mindset, I'm going to say, you know what, I'm still going to aim right, and I'm going to try to draw it back in, even though that's not what I'm doing today. And I'm literally aiming towards a bunker with a fade. Like, you have to know and like understand. And I should have been, you know what, I'm taking this information in, I'm going to instruct myself for the day, and I'm going to just go with it. And I'm going to aim a little bit more left and just be okay. And then, like you said, coach told you that you were going to work on it after the tournament, and to not even worry about it, because there's not much you can do unless you're going to like totally fix it, which you shouldn't, in my opinion. I think you should just go with it.
Exactly, go with flow. I think another thing is like you also don't have to pay you don't have to pay a lot of money for good instruction. Like, of course it's going to be great if you get a good swing coach that you see every once in a while, but don't feel like you have to shell out all kinds of money. It's not always not about that. I know with our assistant coaches, I've learned a lot from them, and thankfully we've been blessed enough to not have to pay for that. So it's not just always about like finding the most expensive swing coach who charges the most an hour. Like, that's great, but you can find good instruction anywhere.
Yeah. Now my favorite part about this whole podcast is applying it into life. And as my freshman year of college, I have been learning so much, and not even like as like in college or like my education. Like, I mean, just like about life. Mm-hmm. I'm learning that you need to like save money. That's kind of embarrassing for me, but I have the worst spending habits, and I'm learning to save. I everyone, my boyfriend always tells me, you need to save your money. I'm like, no, it's okay. Like, I live at home. And then we got invited to go on a trip, and I have no money saved up to go. And it's sad because I'm kind of like one step behind, and now I'm in a rush to save all this money. So I'm learning. I'm taking all the information I can. I even posted on my Instagram, hey, how's everyone saving money? And I learned all the different ways. I'm learning that it's okay to be different. I'm taking in all the information about myself, and I'm not comparing it to other people like we've talked about in other podcasts. I just love this stage of my life that I'm growing. I'm only 18, but I'm learning all this different stuff. I want to be able to afford my own house one day and to make money and invest money and all this kind of stuff, and just to be smart, right? But you can't do all that without learning all the information, and you also aren't going to learn information if you're just going to stand back. You have to go and you have to talk to people. You have to put yourself out there. Apply yourself and start conversations that you're not the most comfortable with, right? And I don't know. That's what I've been learning. What have you been learning this past year?
Ooh, what I've been learning. I've been learning that it's okay to not be okay. So you don't always have to be happy, and this can affect your golf game too, because I didn't realize how much my mental health and how much my attitude and my happiness could affect other parts of my other areas of my life. One thing I learned is whenever I have a lot of emotions going on in my head and I don't feel okay, I bottle it up, and when I bottle it up, it explodes. And it doesn't explode in just to my friendship, my relationships, my family. It explodes into every area of my life. And there was a solid 2 weeks where I was just struggling on the golf course mentally. I did not want to be there. I was tired. I was exhausted. And I realized I didn't take time for myself, and I was putting too much on my plate. I was never sleeping. I was always working. I was always having something to do. And finally, one of my coworkers that I work with said, just take a day off and go golf for yourself. Don't golf for a score. Don't golf for your team. Don't come into the office. Just take a day off. Take the weekend off. Take a whole week off. And I was like, but I want to work. I want to do these things for myself. I don't need help. I can do this all on my own. I don't need to listen to anybody. And I didn't take a second to realize that I wasn't okay, that I was tired, that I was overworking myself, and that I was burnt out. And that I had to learn that it's okay to not always be okay. And that's okay because eventually it's not going to be like that forever. It's only temporary.
Yeah.
And so I didn't realize that would also affect my mental health outside of golf, would also affect it in golf. So I had to learn how to take time for myself and have self-care days and take days where I just honestly needed to sleep and realize I might not be okay today, but eventually I will be. So that's the biggest thing I've learned so far.
So to go along with that, it's okay to not be okay. So my mom listens to life podcasts all the time, and she shares with my family all the amazing stuff she's learned. And the one thing that my family always repeats is 50% of your days are going to be bad and 50% of your days are going to be good. And just knowing that and accepting that, okay, today is not going to be the 50% of a good day. But to not completely crash, right? Still make the most of it. I didn't have a very good day this past weekend, but I went out. I played golf with my family, one thing that I love. It doesn't have to be golf, just whatever you love to do. Get outside, go with the people you love. My day was turned around like that.
Exactly. Life is like a numbers game.
Yeah.
You're going to get bad ones and good ones, like you said, but it's what you do with those bad ones.
Yeah, and knowing how, and taking your information and knowing what you need in order to change it.
Exactly. But with that said, I think we've gone over how information and instruction can go hand in hand with golf and in life. But until next time, always stay pink, do pink, and be pink.